start this baby off. Hello everybody, this is Bobo Jones, and this is my first ever video blog or vlog. So, I know there's a million of these, and I don't honestly know what there is that is new that I plan to bring to the table. But I figure it never hurts to have one more perspective on the internet. And I figured for this particular video, I'd give a little insight into why I decided to start riding. And just explain that, because I'll tell you, I am not the type of person to ride motorcycles. So it's definitely a little bit strange for me, I guess you'd say, that I would do this, because I'm, just not actually the type to normally do this. I'm very, I don't know what to say, conservative with this type of thing. And my whole life I never really understood why anybody would put themselves at risk in this way and ride bikes. But now that I'm doing it, I just really friggin' love it. It's pretty awesome, and it's brought a lot of happiness to me, which is cool. But yeah, man, I never thought that, I just never saw myself as somebody who would ever ride a motorcycle. And then I moved here from New York to California, and that was it, we only had one car, me and my fiance, and I started off with a scooter. Well, first I started off with a bicycle, which was cool. And then I moved up to I got tired of biking to work. Work's only about 6 miles, but I got tired of biking. I was like, this isn't practical. I can't always depend on a bicycle. So I ended up moving up to a scooter, a really nice one actually, a 1986 Honda Elite. And that was awesome. And so that's kind of where I started getting my bearings in terms of, like having a heavier, faster motorized vehicle. My Honda Elite 250, which is from 1986, went about 70 miles an hour, and I didn't need to think about shifting, so I could just focus on the throttle and how that felt, and moving it around and cornering with it and leaning the bike. And man, it was awesome. That thing was great. And then I had some folks at work who were pretty serious bikers, and they started telling me about it, and kind of busted my chops for the scooter, but I couldn't do it because I was like, oh no, it's too dangerous, I don't want to do it, this, that. And then finally I was like, you know what, my buddy let me ride his Ninja 600 on the roof of our office building, and I would basically just, put it in first and release the clutch and slowly kind of roll around. And I realized that bike isn't actually much heavier than my scooter was, and it just felt really good, and I kind of got the sense of how it worked, but shifting obviously was still scary for me. But I started getting into it, and the more I thought about it, the less I sort of was happy with my scooter, and I was like, fuck, it'd be really fun to just have a beautiful motorcycle to get around. And to be quite honest, if you're around LA, which is where I am, it's actually, and this isn't just me making up excuses, it's actually safer to have a motorcycle, I would say, than a scooter. because there's a lot of like messed up roads and their drivers here are kind of crazy, and it's just nice to have that power, that extra power, so that if you need to get out of a situation or you drop in like a really big pothole or something shitty like that, that you'll be okay. So so I started thinking more and more, and then of course I started researching, and then once you start researching, that's it. I mean, you get obsessed. I started figuring out like, well, what kind of bike is right for me, and basically I started looking at naked bikes because that's the style I really liked, and so I'm looking, and my coworker who rides some really nice bikes he sent me an email, and it was called Motorcycle Porn, and he sent it to my work email, so I was at first worried that it was just like chicks getting banged on motorcycles, but then I, opened it up, and it was a bunch of beautiful, beautiful motorcycles he had picked out on Craigslist for me, that he thought would be really good starter motorcycles. And he rides like an enduro dirt, what are they called? Oh God, why can't I remember what it's called? The like German, Scandinavian sounding one. I forgot. And then he has a speed triple, like an older one with the really beautiful circular front light. So he sends me all these bikes, BMWs, this, that, the other thing, and one of them he sends me is this Tiger 800. And at that point, I was looking mainly at like the BMWs, the 800 GS, and I saw that Tiger, and I was like, that's it. I mean, that's like the perfect bike for me. And then I started reading up about it. I saw it had great reviews, that the engine is just like perfect. And even though it's an 800, it's an adventure bike, so it's not like an 800 super speed bike that I'm gonna twist the throttle and flip backwards and break my neck. I can hit the throttle pretty hard on this and I'll move, but it's not like a fucking wheeling machine. So that's it, man. And once that bug hit, it was over. I was like, I need that Tiger 800. That bike is awesome. I was reading, people were like, it's a great bike, really easy to control, really confidence inspiring, good for getting around the city, good for the canyons, when I get there. And so that was it. I was sold, man. It was like, it was over. So I started looking, and finally I found the perfect one, not super far away from me on Craigslist. And that was it. I met the guy, and that day we negotiated. I got it down to a really good price, and it came with like all the luggage and all that type of stuff, which is awesome. Whoops, forgot to shift. And that was it. So I met him and I bought it. And so I bought this motorcycle not even knowing how to ride motorcycles. So I bought this thing, and essentially I couldn't ride it. So my buddy came with me, my buddy from work, who's like the one who convinced me to get a motorcycle in the first place. And he came with me to buy the bike, and we rode in my car, and then he rode back with the bike, and he test drove the bike when we were there. And he was like, oh man, it's fucking awesome, just get it. That's the guy with the Ninja 600. And so I bought it. He rode it back to the office, and that's it. And so I had it at the office. Oh no, actually he rode it back to my house. So I had it at the house, a bike I didn't know how to ride, but I just knew how to release the clutch, and idle around. So I own this beautiful Triumph bike that I literally, what street are we on? Had no idea how to ride, which is pretty silly, but that's just how I am, like when I got my mind set on something. And actually the timing worked out perfect, because just as I bought the bike, I get out of work one day, and I'm riding my scooter back and forth, and the scooter doesn't turn on. So I have to go through this whole thing. I bring it to the mechanic, and it turns out that it's a problem. It's like the worst possible problem with the electric system. They replaced 2 parts, which doesn't do anything. And it turns out the stator's dead, and nobody probably knows what a stator is, or at least I don't, because I have 0 mechanic abilities or knowledge. Anyway, so I end up spending like $75 on parts, and then they're like, dude, it's not even worth it. This shit is toast. Which sucked, because I only had it for about 5 months. So that was really shitty. But the timing worked out great. The only problem was now I didn't have a scooter, and I had a motorcycle that I didn't know how to ride. So I was like, all right, well, now I really need to learn how to ride this thing, because it's my only mode of transportation. Again, I moved here from New York, and my fiance, we got a really beautiful Mazda CX-5 Grand Touring, but that's her car. So I had the bicycle, then the scooter, and now I have the motorcycle. But now I had nothing, because I had a motorcycle I didn't know how to ride. So my first priority was learning how to ride the motorcycle so that I could get to work and not have to go back to the bicycle. So I started trying to learn on my street, and so what I would do is I would basically like idle up to, but I live on a hill, like a street on a hill, so I would basically start at the top of the hill, you know, start my idling, and I didn't realize that as you're releasing the clutch, you start accelerating. So I would be like idling until I could fully release the clutch, and I'm like floating around. And then, you know, finally, once the clutch was fully disengaged, because I didn't know about a wet clutch or how to shift or anything, I don't know how to drive a manual car. Once the clutch was fully disengaged, and I was like rolling around super slow, I would start to, you know, give it some gas, and I'd go down the hill, and then at the bottom of the hill, I'd do a U-turn. And so all day, I ended up just going up the hill and down the hill and up the hill for about like 30, 40 minutes. And so then I'm going up the hill, and of course, you know, I'm pissing off all the neighbors, because, you know, I mean, I'd piss them off probably whatever bike I had, but the Triumph specifically is, these triple engines, they have kind of a really high squeal. And so I was like, you know, making a lot of noise for the neighbors, squealing up and down the block. So I'm on the up portion of the hill, going up the hill, and my neighbor comes out and stands in the middle of the street in front of me to stop me. And I mean, he wasn't a super dick about it, but he was like, dude, I get it, you're learning, but you know, it's really getting obnoxious now. And so I was like, okay, cool. But at that point, I'm going up the hill, and so the only way I know how to start the bike is to release the clutch, let it idle, which obviously you can't do when you're going up a hill, and I definitely hadn't learned how to start up a hill at that point. So basically, I'm screwed. So I'm standing outside of the guy's place, and I'm trying to release the clutch up the hill, not working, so I'm stalling over and over and over and over again, and the guy probably thought I was being a huge dickhead. I'm just stalling and starting over, and stalling and starting over, and stalling, and I did it about 10 times. So I'm learning all these lessons, like, okay, I'm fucked, and it's not easy to start up a hill, and it's just ridiculous. And it was like a terrible first time on the street with my bike situation, and it was just horrifying. And so finally it gets worse. So finally I'm like, well, I can't fucking start up a hill. The guy probably is going to want to fight me next time I see him, because he probably thinks I'm being a dick, or maybe he knows how motorcycles work. Wow, it's really beautiful out, by the way. This is insane. Jesus. This is Palos Verdes, by the way, in California, one of the really beautiful rides that's near my house. Anyway, so I have the bright idea on this steep hill then to turn it left, essentially, and try to walk it left so that I'm going down the hill, because I know I can at least put it in neutral and roll it down the hill. So, wow, look at that. So then I try that, and of course, on a steep hill, the bike just wants to drop left down the hill. And so then I do something even stupider, like I'm walking with my legs still on the bike. I do something even stupider, and I attempt to get off the bike and hold it from one side like a bicycle, and I almost drop it there, but I didn't drop it. And it's just like, what a nightmare. What a first day on my bike. You know, my brand new bike, it's like the worst, you know, post-purchase regret, you know, buyer's remorse you could ever have. I'm like, I just spent many thousands on this beautiful machine, and I don't know how to ride it, and I don't know how to put it up a hill, and I don't know how to do anything. And so it's horrible. So finally I managed to not drop it, because I'm actually, you know, I'm not a giant guy, but I'm strong enough to manhandle it, roll it down the hill, and oh my God, it was so bad. And so I put it, you know, I ride it up the hill, and I'm like shaking at this point, and I park it, and I'm just like in a deep depression, because I bought this thing and I realize I have no friggin' idea how to use it. Like, no idea. I'm like, what am I thinking? I'm ridiculous. I'm a ridiculous human being. I'm an idiot. These roads are really fucked up. They're working on them. And I just feel like a complete jackass. Look at that view, man. But I get home, I call my motorcycle buddies. I'm like, dude, how the fuck do you start up a hill? I watch all these YouTube videos, and thank you. I'll put the links to the videos I watched of the guys who really helped me in the comments. But oh man, it was the worst. I was so depressed about this bike. I was like, what am I thinking? I'm never going to be able to ride this thing. A clutch is impossible. And so that was it. So I called my friend, and I'm like, dude, you got to come over and give me a hand here. I have no idea how to ride this thing. He's the one who sent me the motorcycle porn. And so he was like, of course, no problem. I'm happy to help. And so anyway, you know, I'm just bummed out. I'm calling everybody. And so one guy explained to me on the phone, my buddy Don from New York explained to me how to start up a hill. I watched a bunch of videos, so I was like, okay, at least next time I can attempt this thing so I'm not totally stuck. So what we ended up doing at the end of the day is my buddy David, moto porn guy, called me, came over, and we went to my office. He rode the bike to my office, and then on the roof of the office, he just essentially taught me how to ride the bike. He taught me all about like the clutch and stuff, and he taught me, you know, how all that works. And so I would just get used to shifting, get used to starting it, and really just learn the relationship between the clutch and the throttle. So I got way more comfortable. I'm riding around, and then finally every day at work I'm practicing. I'm going up to the roof and practicing on the roof of the parking lot. There's a parking lot, by the way. I'm not just like on the roof of my office building. And so I got comfortable enough where I felt like I was starting easy. I wasn't stalling, and I felt like, okay, I'm in good shape. So the next step was now taking it home, because at this point my fiance was like, the days I didn't feel like biking, my fiance was driving me to work, which is annoying for her, and I feel bad, even though it's not far and it's on her way. So my buddy who lives near me in South Bay, he essentially rides behind me, like, you know, when there's like a wide load truck and then there's that like following vehicle. Jesus. And so that's what it was like, basically. And that's what you got to watch out for, though. Dudes don't see you and they drive in front of you. Yeah, so it was like really ridiculous. I had him like tailing me with the car, with his little Mini Cooper, making sure people gave me distance, and he just rode with me from the office. Those 6 miles home, we took the super peaceful route, And that was it. I got home. I didn't stall once. He was like, "You feel good?" I was like, "Yep." And that was the beginning. And then I started riding to work every day. And it was just fucking awesome, man. I mean, like, once you learn how to ride a motorcycle, it's just the most awesome thing ever. I mean, it's so much fun. I mean, look at this shit. This is so cool. And that's it. And then I became obsessed. And of course, I started buying all this shit for my bike and watching YouTube videos all the time. And my fiance is getting pissed at me. I'm watching YouTube videos, and she comes home and there's fucking YouTube videos on the TV and shit. But it's awesome, and I learned a lot from YouTube. So I'm hoping, you know, I can cover some of those own things and, you know, show some of the problems I had and some of the ways that I handled them that worked for me. You know, because I mean, I'm definitely not a good rider, and you guys will see these videos and you'll be like, "You're pretty shitty, dude." And I'll be like, "Yep, I know. I've only been riding for, you know, not super long, but." I mean, I feel okay, and I mean, this is a really great bike, so I feel pretty comfortable on it. I feel like it's pretty safe. The suspension is good. But yeah, I've been riding ever since, and now I'm, you know, getting to the point where my fiance comes on with me fully geared up. I have her in a suit of armor. But anyway, so what I'm hoping to get out of these vlogs is just sharing with you guys some of my experiences. And so that, you know, you can relate, because it's a really scary thing to get started with. It's a really difficult skill to learn. Obviously, I'm still not very good at it. I don't know how to rev match or any of that shit. I over rev when I'm downshifting, and I never know what gear I should be in when I go on a turn on the canyon. So, you know, who the fuck knows? I have a lot to learn. That's some sunset though, man. But it's just wonderful, and I could tell you, I'm telling you guys, like, I am the last person to ever ride a motorcycle. Like, I am a really practical, safe, like, super, I don't know, you know, type of person. And, you know, the right circumstances happened where I ended up riding one, and it's like, it's one of the best things I've ever done. I mean, it's one of the most amazing things ever, and I'm just so happy that I got into it, because it's so much fun. Oh my god, it's just like, it's like nothing else. And yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, I have a funny story about when I was learning to ride on the roof, but I'll save that for another time. But that was I'll tell you this, it was the one time I ever dropped this bike, and it fucking sucked. I've almost dropped this bike a few other times, but never fully. So anyway, yeah, I think that's it. So I don't know what I'll cover in these in the future. You know, I'm not sure yet. I don't know if it'll be only motorcycle stuff, or if it'll be like motorcycle and life stuff and just like what's going on. But I mean, as long as I have this bike and I'm riding it, you know, I figure I might as well strap a camera to it and chat. Just give me something to do when I'm on these rides. Although I am kind of missing the view because I'm focused on talking and, you know, riding. So I'm not looking at that over there, which is pretty fucking nice. So yeah, I don't know what I'll cover. I want to cover, you know, go over the bike, go over some of the stuff I've done with it. Again, I have a Triumph Tiger 800. I've done some stuff to it, so I can obviously go over that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Well, let's see. Anyway, the Bobo Jones out.